Who's going to break out on this Miami Hurricanes roster this season? Well, I think we need to start in the tight end room.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. I am Alex Donno, co-host of Locked On ACC, writer for allhurricanes.com, and thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sport stops sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On this episode, we're going to talk about Cam Ward and what he can accomplish in Shannon Dawson's offense this coming season. We're going to talk about Miami's newest verbal commit, Dante Simpson from Chaminade, what he's going to bring to the table next year. We're going to talk about that opening game against the Gators and how different Florida's going to look if Montrell Johnson, their running back, is able to play, or if he's not. He's recovering from an injury. But I want to start out with breakout players, and we have the privilege on this episode of being joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Larry Blustein. We call him our boy Blue at Prep Red Zone FL is where you can follow him on X, and you should. He's extremely informative. So, Blue, people are always asking me, and I'm sure they're always asking you as well, which players are going to break out this season at Miami? And I really think, Blue, we should start in the tight end room because that room was quiet in terms of pass catching last year. I think it's about to get very loud in Coral Gables.
Yeah, it's been quiet. I mean, over the last couple of years, we expect a lot from Will Mallory. And, every game, everyone said, well, they need to throw to the tight ends more. And, that's been, I guess, and especially because the last two regimes, as far as offensive coordinators, were notorious for using their tight ends before they got to the University of Miami. And so now you have an opportunity, somebody a couple of years ago that everyone predicted great things from, but he's not been healthy, is Elijah Arroyo. And certainly here's somebody that, from when he came from Texas, a lot of people were expecting, everyone was watching his film from back, in his high school days and said, oh, wow, this kid's going to be, what a fit. When he grows and learns more, he's going to be a lethal weapon. But he hasn't been on the field. And, he's been hurt last year, riddled with injuries. So he really never got on track. But certainly this is his year. This is a year that, because with Miami coming in with the several tight ends over the next two cycles, he's got to establish himself. He doesn't want to waste his time here, to the point where if he gets hurt again or he's not productive again, the tight end recruits Miami has coming in next year could just bypass him real quick because they're, big, talented guys who produce. And, so I look for him to be an integral part of the offense, especially with the quarterback position the way it is. You have a quarterback that's mobile, creates a lot of things. And when you create a lot of things with your feet and your arm, that makes a lot of your receivers, your tight ends, your running backs more lethal because you just can't pay attention, to running backs, tight ends, receivers. You got to understand that you have a quarterback that can do a lot of things, with his legs as well. So definitely Elijah Arroyo, I think, is on the top of that list. And another guy that I've been really high on, and I've had like the cheat code on him for like 3 years because a friend of mine's son is the offensive line coach at Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, which produced obviously Brevin Jordan. And when Brevin was here doing his thing, I was told, listen, they got another kid coming who's just a freshman, who I think is going to be as good or better than Brevin Jordan, and that's Elijah Lofton. He looks like a man. And I had Coach Cristobal on our show last week on WQAM, and I asked, that was like the last question that I addressed to him. I said, this guy's a Lamborghini. There's just no way you're parking him in the garage. He goes, let me tell you something. He looks like a senior in college. That's, he is not afraid of anything. He doesn't get nervous. He just goes out and proves himself. So those are two guys out right off the bat. that need to kind of step up their game, and I think Miami will benefit from the first game.
Well, and thinking about the tight end room is it's even deeper than that, Blue, because I'm also really bullish on Riley Williams, who he got a lot of playing time last year. He was thrust into it as a true freshman, a lot of blocking, and I think he played better than people gave him credit for. Riley, he did catch a touchdown pass last year,
Right.
actually the only touchdown caught from the tight end room last season, and that's another one, Blue. Riley Williams is a grown freaking man, and I think he can break out as well.
Well, here's the thing, too. When they recruited him, and you remember that there was a couple of other recruits at the tight end position, everybody kept, and I had said, because I watched them, at different various events, and I said, this kid, he's got the size, he can catch, he runs almost like a receiver, because he's, he reminded me a lot of Will Mallory in the way that he was athletic for his size. Usually tight ends are kind of big and you use them as as blockers. But yeah, I agree with you. This is somebody who's going to push for playing time, and he should. This is how you become Georgia. This is how you become Ohio State and Alabama, by having multiple guys pushing each other every day in practice. And, there's several other positions on Miami, like wide receiver. This may be Jacoby George's final curtain. He needs to step up his game, because there's a lot of younger guys that are coming in that came in this cycle, like Nikar, and Josiah Trader, guys that are ready. And this is how you get better. The competition in Miami's room over the last couple of years hasn't really been that tough, and what they were searching for were frontline players. And now they've gotten to the point, and I still remember when you and I were doing a pregame, and the one thing that we talked about was Miami's offensive line and how deficient it was. And, we kept remarking that, wow, this every time the running back gets the ball, the offensive line is getting pushed right back 5 yards to him. Not anymore, because the offensive line now has become, I think, one of the strongest, if not the strongest parts of this team, because not only do they have frontline players, but they have guys behind them pushing.
Well, I want to talk about some defensive guys that can absolutely break out this year, and hopefully some of these breakouts play in that defensive backfield, because there are going to be certain youth elements in the DB room. Obviously, Darrell Porter Jr. is a senior. Mish Powell, who transferred in, is a senior. But there's going to be some young guys getting opportunities at full-time starting jobs for the first time. So you know what you want to do, folks? We're only getting started. We're not anywhere near done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. We got Larry Blustein with us. You want to keep it locked. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first Monday listen and watch today. For your second listen, make sure you check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack and we talk about the entire conference, football previews, lawsuit updates, conference realignment rumors. You can find all that good stuff at Locked On ACC, free wherever you get your podcasts, and available free on YouTube. We have our boy Blue, Larry Blustein, with us. So, Blue, someone who looks like he's trending strongly upward in the first few days of Miami Hurricanes training camp is Damari Brown, who's competing for starting job, or maybe multiple starting jobs in that defensive backfield, because he's gotten some reps at nickel, getting some reps at outside corner. You covered Damari Brown at American Heritage as he's heading into his second year. Blue, like he this guy looks like a future NFL player. Do you think he can carve that path over the next few years?
Yeah, most definitely. I actually ran into him a couple times, when I went down there during the spring and for some of the camps, that he was there, kind of working out on his own. And I couldn't, he got so much bigger and he's more mature. And that was one of the things that, when we talked with some of the players and they kind of singled him out by saying, he had an awesome off season. He's taking everything so serious. He's getting in the weight room. He's trying to, be that guy that's not going to get injured. And that's what you got to do is when like Xavier Shepo, when he got hurt a couple of years ago, he vowed not to get hurt again. And so he spent more time in the weight room and getting stronger in every phase. And, when you talk about Damari, here's somebody who has an opportunity to work with some really good people at the University of Miami. Also on the offensive side of the ball, it's the adage, iron sharpens iron. So when you go up against some of those really key wide receivers with experience, you get better. And I agree with you. And we kind of predicted this at the beginning because watching him in high school for all those years, you could see that, the only thing separating him from being great at the next level was experience. And he's getting that now. And he'll really get more of that this year because this is a position right now that, although talented, and is still a question mark. And, but I think the thing that's going to benefit him the most is Miami's strength in the front seven. Their front line, their linebacking core, which has just gotten a lot better with a lot of really good football players emerging. So, and I think that people don't understand. I think that Miami secondary will be really good. It's just that, you've got to get some of that college level experience in there, and they will.
Yeah, and a couple of the other younger guys that I don't talk about nearly enough, but when I was chatting last week with Daryl Porter, who's the elder statesman of the cornerback room,
Right.
He also brought up Robert Stafford, who's heading into his second year. He'll be a redshirt freshman, and OJ Frederic, who's heading into his first year, a true freshman. He mentioned that those guys are also getting in the mix and showing a lot in camp, and that they've even, according to Porter, they've dabbled and gotten a few first team reps, which is good. And these are players, especially Frederic being local, that I'm sure, Blue, you covered a lot. You probably covered Stafford up in the Space Coast than most people did. So tell me about these players who may not be starters right away, but can work their way into the rotation.
When they were getting Stafford out of O'Galley, which is up there near the Melbourne area, I think I told you at the time, I said, the kid's an outstanding basketball player. I went, happened to be at a game. The kid was dropping 25 points and, getting rebounds. He's vertical, is close to 40 inches. He's long wingspan in his arms. He's very athletic. Yeah, I agree. He's going to be a breakout guy. And I always felt that he was as athletic as anybody on the team. And now he'll get a chance to, get an opportunity to showcase it with Frederic. I had an opportunity to watch him at Deerfield Beach before he went to St. Thomas for his final year. But being at St. Thomas, I thought really pushed him over the top. And when Miami's recruiting him, a lot of people go, oh, who is this guy? And what kind of credentials does he have? And I said, if you watch these kids, you'll understand when Miami's recruiting or anybody's recruiting, they see every phase of this young man. They see his potential. They see what he brings to the table. And that a lot of fans don't understand. And I'm not taking any shots at fans, but you have to understand that people in the recruiting business, this is their livelihood. And they are there watching and making evaluations off of tape, character. And OJ kind of checks all the boxes, when you're looking for that type of player that you can project for the next couple of years. And especially in the age of portal, you want to get kids that are going to stay around and develop.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I've learned from this man, Larry Blustein, over the years, and I take it to heart, is you can't truly make an assessment on any player without seeing them in person, right? That anything else is kind of hearsay. Even the film can sometimes lie compared to what you see in person. And it's why Blue is always driving all over the Southeast and all over the state of Florida, watching camps, going on to all these events and high school games, seeing these players in person. A youngish defensive back who's probably going to step into a starting role this year is Jaden Harris, Blue, and he's been the understudy for Cam Kinchins. There's few better people to learn from than Kinchins, and it seems like Harris has taken those lessons to heart. Do you think he's going to help solidify the safety spots this year?
Well, here's the thing too, and when you first come in as a young kid, your eyes are open, you're looking, you're trying to drink in everything. I think this is what has happened to him over the last year or so, is that he was still learning, and now he's getting an opportunity to apply what everybody saw. He's athletic, he's skilled. I mean, like you said, he has, not only can he'll knock you out with his hits, but he'll also has that Cam Kinchins type of coverage and being able to read passes and great ball skills. And that's the one thing that I think in this day and age makes a great safety. The days of the big guys like Cam Chancellor and Lewis Oliver and guys like that are kind of over, because those guys like James Williams are getting an opportunity now to play outside linebacker instead of playing the safety spot. So you have players like this young man who has learned, as you said, from the best, but has worked. You could sit there and watch somebody all you want, but if you don't apply it, then then it's not the full package. But he has, and I think that along with Brown and along with Darryl Porter and some of the other guys that they got coming in, this has a potential to be one of the best secondaries over the next couple of years in the ACC.
Zaquan Patterson, very young, but this is the one Miami fans look at and say, this could be the next great. Like, you think about some of the great I don't want to say names because I don't want to make unfair comparisons for Zaquan, but you think of some of the big name safeties that have come through this program. People are looking at Patterson like this could be the next guy. Blue, I have no doubt the future is very bright for Zaquan, but how much burn do you think he's going to get as a true freshman this year?
Yeah, he's going to get plenty of reps. So, it's just that Miami, if they have the athletic ability to get into the game, they're going to use them. They don't this way when you platoon and you watch some of the great teams who are 2 deep, maybe even in some cases 3 deep, they get as many bodies in there as possible to keep, your starters fresh and not, have to overwork them. Zaquan's a different animal. I mean, this guy is from back in the 8th grade. He's always had a nose for the ball. He has an opportunity to do some really special stuff.
Yeah, Larry Blustein, our boy Blue, is with us here. He does an awesome job, by the way, on AM 560 Sports WQAM, on the 6 Ring podcast, on Prep Red Zone Florida. So we're so lucky to have Larry Blustein as a resource here. Blue, I want to transition and talk about that opening game against the Florida Gators on August 31st. And so, one thing, and obviously Miami's going to prepare the same way for Florida's offense. They're not worried about who's going to play and who's not going to play. But there's a question now, big question mark on Montrell Johnson, their top running back, who suffered a Florida running back, by the way. Just those listening are like, wait, did Montrell Johnson suffered a knee injury? He had a procedure, and so he's being officially reported as week to week, which theoretically could mean he might be ready to go August 31st. I was told by someone who covers that program that they're thinking 6 weeks that may be, which obviously, if you do the math, 6 weeks would not have him ready in time to play Miami. I'd like to ask you, how much of a difference does that make if Johnson does play versus if he doesn't play? How is that going to affect Florida's offense?
Well, it makes a big difference because, I think there's kind of a drop off to Trayon Webb, who's a sophomore kid from up in Jacksonville Trinity, and also the kid Jaden Boss. So you have a really good drop off from a senior to a sophomore or freshman. And, I think that makes a huge difference, especially when you're not a very deep team like Florida and you're still looking for, guys to step up in different positions to kind of spark you. So, yeah, I think potentially it's kind of really, really an important part of what they bring to the table. You don't want to put obviously all the pressure on a Graham Mertz, who's good, but he's not that dude. He's not that like a DJ Lagway, who's their incoming freshman. Obviously, he brings more to the table, but Graham Mertz brings experience, and that's what you especially going into their season. With Florida, with Miami and a ton of other SEC schools like Texas and Georgia and such. So, yeah, it's huge. It's really huge. And it's going to give Miami an opportunity, maybe, obviously a young running back with an offensive line that is kind of rebuilt is going to be tougher. See, in a Montrell Johnson, you have enough experience where he can bounce things outside or find little holes or even get outside, to be part of the passing game like they did a couple of years ago with Naquan Wright. So, yeah, I think it would be huge, especially not just a Miami game, but moving forward in their SEC schedule, which is not easy.
So have you gone on record picking Miami to win that game? I think you've said it on this show. But now that we're closer to game one, we're less than 4 weeks away. Are you picking the Canes against the Gators?
Yeah, but I think it's going to be tough because just the Swamp being the Swamp, and Miami is not well loved, and they don't come up there very often. So that these tickets have gone quickly, and it's going to be orange and blue predominantly. You have some orange and green smatter, but it's going to be this is a real home game advantage. So Miami's got to get in there. Thank goodness they got an experienced quarterback, with some experienced players on that offense. So, especially, if with Martinez coming in too, guys that are new faces, with Brown and all these guys like that who have been under the pressure and understand, but the Swamp is a place like no other. You look at LSU and Michigan and other places that are really tough to play, but I think the Swamp is top 5 as far as home field advantage. So I think that gives Florida an opportunity, from the beginning. But I think Miami comes out. This is you kind of wish that they had like Florida A&M the first game, because then you get a chance to see what they have. So, but you know what? This is part of the game, and Miami got to come out, but it's going to be close.
Well, Blue talked about Miami's experienced quarterback. Let's talk more about Cam Ward when we come back and what he can add to this Miami Hurricanes offense. You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And I'm certainly not done yet with FanDuel. Guys, we've been winning money and having a great time all summer, whether it be wagering on the Olympics, international soccer, NBA Summer League basketball, Olympic basketball, UFC, boxing. There's been so much going on, and now football is basically back. I'm not too big on betting NFL preseason games for obvious reasons, but college football is going to be here in a couple of weeks, and this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. For the everydayers out there, if you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, sign up to become a Locked On Canes insider. I include a link in the show description below. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours with breaking news, recruiting updates, practice updates, show updates, one-on-one questions and answers. Try it free for 14 days. Click the link below, become a Locked On Canes insider for free. Then if you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there on the Locked On Canes insiders chat. So Larry Blustein, something that you talked a little earlier about, one of the traits of Cam Ward that makes him unique, let's say, to some of the quarterbacks Miami's had in recent years, and that's his ability to extend plays, his ability to improvise, make things happen with his legs. And I know something that Ward has been working on with his receivers, both in practice and on their own time, is scramble drills. Right. When he extends a play or improvises a play or the play breaks down, getting on the same page for the off schedule stuff, where to run when Ward scrambles, timing of when to look back. So it's cool to know that that's something they're putting in a lot of hours on, Blue, because again, no matter what play Shannon Dawson is calling, sometimes that play is going to get broken up and improvised. And isn't that one of the elements now that's going to make Cam Ward so dangerous in this offense?
Oh, most definitely. Here's a mobile guy, and obviously he's going to make mistakes, and it just happens. He did at Washington State. And that was one of the knocks, that sometimes his judgment on different plays, that probably weren't. Shouldn't have been made, but you know what? That's experience, and that's what you have around you. I think Miami has a whole lot more than Washington State did around him, so he'll have a lot of options. But as you saw in the spring game, he's got talent. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He makes a huge difference. He's an impact player. What was he voted as preseason ACC Player of the Year? I mean,
right. I was one of those votes, Blue.
Yeah.
I helped that cause.
Without ever taking a snap. So, at this level. But I think the very fact that he already showed what he could do and how he's got the confidence of not only the players, but the coaching staff as well. Yeah, he's a difference maker. And, he may throw a pick and Miami may get down in the swamp, but, he has enough experience and, to pick himself back up and do a lot of things and understand that Miami's weapons on offense should overwhelm what Florida has on defense. Florida has got a nice defense, but Miami's got you got a kid and Xavier Restrepo who's 57 catches away from being the all-time leading receiver at the school. So, and coming off a first-team All-ACC year. But you have guys on the end. I think the kid Brown is going to make a huge difference. He knows this offense. This is his only year right here, and he's going to be able to shine. He's going to, and this will go a long way to see, his draftability. So guys like that, and you had mentioned Arroyo, and obviously the running game, which I think is really deep. Martinez, we'll see what happens, with some other injuries, how they, play out. But I think because of the fact that he's got some pieces around him, that the pressure won't totally be on him. You could throw, and as well as you watch from the 30 in, Restrepo's he's deadly, because what's going to happen is you get a safety on him and he's going to lose him. And because he runs great patterns. Now, if you add in the element of a tight end, then the assignment on defense becomes tougher. And then all of a sudden you got a guy like Jacoby George who hasn't really lived up to all of his potential coming in, and you have an opportunity with an offensive line. Now, people don't understand this may be Miami's best offensive line in well over a decade. Because of the fact that if you remember when Rivers came in, a lot of people, okay, he's okay. But now he's the catalyst up front. He's a guy with all the experience. And you couple that with Mawanoa and Carpenter, who just came in. I think this is an opportunity for Miami to really put up. I think they're going to average over 40 points a game this year. Whether they do it right out of the box, I'm not real sure. But look at all the guys that I've mentioned. And, And they've got an opportunity to do some special things. And I think the defense will control a lot of offensive lines, and putting Miami in better field position. That makes a difference too, because if you take over the ball, at your own 40 as opposed to your own 5, and have to go 95 yards, puts more pressure on your team. But if you have more, if you take over in a friendly type of position, your offense has less stress on them, and your quarterback gets to kind of dictate a little bit more. And he's a guy at all, you've seen these people that all they need is a seam and they're gone. Well, all he needs is a little bit of a time, and I think he's going to be afforded that. And that's the one thing that he didn't have it. And I watched back at Washington State. He didn't have this type of line. He didn't have this athleticism of an Okunloa or a Mawano or any of these guys who are up front. So I think this is a perfect spot for him to really take over games. And I think this is going to be a special year for him.
Beautiful. So I wanted to ask Larry Blustein about Miami's newest verbal commit, because this is a player you've covered for a long time, and it's important to get the Blue scouting report. So, late last week, Miami lands a verbal commit from Dante Simpson. I had a chance I haven't scouted him in person, but I've met him. I've seen him in person, and he's a big boy. But of course, Blue, Miami lands a player who's rated 3 stars. And I start to see this from, the folks up in Tallahassee. They're like, oh, look at that. you guys landed at Mario's just going to bring in 43 star players. So you guys are going to get yourselves into the top 10 with a bunch of 3-star losers. Like this player, this is not a loser, Blue. Dante Simpson. You've scouted again. I don't know. Was he 2 years old when you started scouting him?
Yeah.
Dante Simpson.
Well, I covered his dad at South Broward Senior High School, who's a really versatile lineman. Also, I think he played fullback, but he also was a state rated wrestler. And, it's funny that when I first, when I saw his son coming up to the ranks, I go, wow, that was quick, and watching him at Chaminade. And I read all these reports about him, and it makes me laugh a little bit because I'm thinking to myself, in the instance before his name was even mentioned for Miami, nobody had a clue who he was. And that's the thing that gets me in the recruiting end of things. And Miami has a couple of guys like that they got that oh, come on, man, he's a 3-star. But who's deeming him a 3-star? Not the college coaches. And it's guys who have websites. And I respect what they do. They're there to sell subscriptions, but at the same time, you can't evaluate everything from film. And I've stood 4 feet from him during a game. He's a difference maker on a difference-making team, a team that easily could have won the national title last year. He's a player. And the whole thing is he's just going to get bigger and he's going to get stronger and he's going to get more, explosive. And I just think it's a huge get. I really do. And then a lot of people I see, I said he could easily be a 4, borderline 5-star. He could. If you really watch him, and if you look at Chaminade's game, they're winning every game. They 70-0. So he doesn't get a chance to, to be in the games that long. But you'll see, he's going to have a huge assignment in game 1, as they're playing John Bosco of California, because they're all 5-star type offensive linemen. So he's going to have his work cut out, and we'll see. And I wouldn't even judge it on just that one game, because if they have some kids on Chaminade, but certainly Dante is one of the key guys up front. So you'll see, especially a team as successful as Bosco, they're going to do some, they'll block him down and they'll double team him and try to keep him, out of the mix. But I think you're going to see over the course of the year that this kid is a big timer. And, I know that Coach Cristobal will love him. And not only that, I think the defensive line coaches at Miami will have an opportunity to refine him even more, But I kind of laugh at these people now who are making comments and they've never seen the guy. They put in a tape. Oh, he's no good. Chris Ewald's no good. Okay. That's your opinion, but I think your opinion, as opposed to people whose jobs are on the line to come up with these athletes and bring them in, I would trust them a little bit more. I think that, if you have an opportunity like any of the defensive people on Miami and evaluate your secondary or evaluate your defensive line, and your job hangs on the balance, if you make a mistake, it's sort of like in the NFL, it's easy to pick a 1st or 2nd round draft pick, but if he doesn't work out, it's going to reflect on you.
Yeah, that's well said. Larry Blustein, you can check him out on X at Prep Red Zone FL. Check him out on the 6 Ring Kane Show and on 560 WQAM. You on QAM tonight, Blue?
Yes, we're on 6 to 8. Got a really good show. A couple of local high school coaches that are starting this week. Also, we have Dante Simpson will be on in the last segment at 7:50. So we have an opportunity to talk a little bit to him. Then we check in, as we do, around the state on some of the schools, FSU, Florida, UCF, and USF tonight, along with the first-year head coach at Kaiser University, most successful program in the state of Florida over the last couple of years, defending national champions. So we'll have an opportunity to talk with them, and good show. And the shows will just get better and better as the season comes closer.
Make sure you support Blue. Make sure you support us here on Locked On Canes. Hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You realize we're available wherever you get your podcasts. You want to take us with you on a drive, on a jog, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey app. We'll talk to you guys again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.